Ronald Reagan, and I really liked him.
I am, in fact, the legitimate heir of the Reagan movement.
Mitt Romney understands, like Ronald Reagan did.
Ronald Reagan flew this plane.
But the Republican Party, I mean, besides Rudy Giuliani, Bush likes to dress up. He likes to be a cowboy or Iceman from Top Gun. And they have something very gay, excuse me, going on with Ronald Reagan. I mean, they love Ronald Reagan in a way that's just gay. I'm sorry. But I think they want to put him on a stamp so they can lick his backside. Well, seriously, I mean...
So why do conservatives love Ronald Reagan so much? As a young man, Ronald Reagan had no political aspirations and became a B-list movie actor in Hollywood as a staunch Democrat. Over time, he progressed into a conservative political career which landed him the California governorship in 1967. Learning hard skills such as communication and a combination of a backlash against the Democrats in 1980, Reagan was able to secure the presidency from President Carter in the 1980 election. Going into the presidency, Reagan set the tone of his administration by stating,
"It is time to check and reverse the growth of government, which shows signs of having grown beyond the consent of the governed. It is no coincidence that our present troubles parallel and are proportionate to the intervention and intrusion in our lives that result from unnecessary and excessive growth of government."
The era preceding Reagan's was a time of economic horror and despair. Hyperinflation, high-priced oil, record unemployment, crippling inflation, and competition from other Western markets such as Japan and West Germany plagued the nation. Coming into the White House, Ronald Reagan had a comprehensive plan to fix the crippling economic problems, which we called the Economic Recovery Tax Act of 1981. This bill called for a complete 180 of all the U.S.'s policies up until that time. It called for 4 basic changes. 1. An across-the-board tax cut so people have more disposable income. 2. Reduction in government spending to have a bigger and balanced government budget. 3. A deregulation of markets to have lower prices. And 4. Reduce inflation by tightening the money supply. With bipartisan support, the bill passed. On the other side of the coin, Paul Volcker, the chairman of the Federal Reserve and a conservative monetarist, raised interest rates to try to stop Americans from spending and borrowing too much money. This, in fact, was to try to stop the fuel of inflation that plagued the country for decades. This made it harder for businesses and people to borrow money, so cuts were made and people lost their jobs. This, in fact, made the economy worse off publicly by increasing unemployment, but this significantly lowered inflation rates, going to a post-war record low in January of 1983. Although the country still remained in a recessive economy in 1982, courtesy of a 10.8 unemployment rate, a record high. With Walker satisfied the inflation had been dealt with, he lowered interest rates in 1983, making it easier to borrow money from the Reserve. With Americans with more money in pocket from lower taxes and jobs beginning to increase from lower interest rates, the United States began an economic boom that would remain uninterrupted for the next 8 years. Riding on a wave of popularity, Reagan was heard quoting in 1984, "I knew my policies worked when they stopped calling them Reaganomics." Although his economic policies were not all successful. In Reagan's best intentions, Reagan tried to balance the budget so that the U.S. would spend less and save more, but his threefold expansion of defense crushed that dream. His defense policy was designed to outspend the USSR, our long-standing rivals, and spend them into bankruptcy. Although this expansion won the Cold War without having to use any of the weapons he built, Reagan placed the country into a crippling deficit that would come back to haunt us in the many years to come.